Hello everyone, welcome. This is a new lecture in your course Advanced Programming in JavaScript from Idionics. My name is Ahmed. In this section, we are going to discuss some of JavaScript native programming concepts. If you have already worked with JavaScript, if you are a seasoned JavaScript programmer, you may want to skip this section, or you may want to follow along as a refresher for the concepts that you already know. If you are new to JavaScript, you will find this section and the section that follows as a basic foundation for you in order to delve into more advanced features of JavaScript in later sections. Let's talk about variables. Variables is one of the cornerstones of JavaScript. If a variable is a container of data, when you have some data that you want to store somewhere in your code in order to be used later, you use a variable. A variable must be declared and it must be initialized in order to be used. To declare a variable, you just inform JavaScript that you intend to use a variable of some name that is going to hold some data, but you did not yet specify that data. You do so when you initialize the variable. Initializing a variable means adding some initial value or actually storing data into that variable. A variable name can be any combination of letters and numbers. So let's have a look here at our Chrome browser, and this is the console window. Actually, you can open the console window not only by right-clicking on any part of the page and choosing Inspect, but you can also use the F12 button in order to engage the console window. So here I can type var my var. Okay, this is initializing. This is called declaring the variable. I have declared a variable that is called my var, but I haven't actually yet put any variable inside. It's just an empty variable or an uninitialized variable. But once I do this, my var equals 22. My var now is a declared and initialized variable. I can use any number of letters and numbers in order to name a variable, with some exceptions. I cannot use any special characters except the $sign and the underscore. So I can make a variable that is called like this. $sign currency, for example. This is perfectly legal. Currency equals 100. Okay, this is perfectly legal. I can also do this. Var name equals Ahmed. This also is perfectly legal. And if you notice here, I am initializing the variable and I am declaring it at the same time. So the declaration and the initialization has been done in one step. Var underscore name equals Ahmed. I have declared and initialized the variable. However, I cannot do something like this. This will cause an exception, as you have seen, or this, for example. This will also not work. Okay, so the only two special characters that I can use in variables are the underscore and the $sign. Okay, other than that, I cannot use any special characters in naming my variables. And also, I cannot do something like this. Two names. That is also not correct. I cannot start the name of the variable with a number. Other than that, I'm free to use whatever combination of letters, $sign, underscore, and numbers in order to name my variables. So I can use something like this, names 2. This is legal. This is also legal. I can also declare multiple variables and initialize some or all of them in one line if I use the comma. So for example, I can say var first name equals John. Okay, second name equals Doe. Okay, and family name equals McDonald, for example. This is perfectly legal. If I try to echo any of those or try to print them to the screen, they are being printed with the values they have. Nothing's wrong here. And please note that JavaScript, like most other languages, is case sensitive. This means that if I said var my name equals Ahmed, this is totally different than my name like this. My name is not defined. And if I use it my name like this, it is not defined either. I have to use the exact case that was used when initializing and declaring the variable my in small cases and uppercase and the rest of the word in lowercase. So it's my name like this, and this is the only way I can call this variable. I have to be very careful about the case sensitivity in JavaScript. Now let's move on to JavaScript operators. Operators are just symbols that accept two or more variables or values, and they apply some operation on them and return the result. This operation may be an arithmetic operation. In most cases, it's going to be an arithmetic operation. But we do have also some other operands that are not used the same way the mathematical operators are used. Let's have them in turn. The addition, of course, it's the plus sign, subtraction, the minus sign, the multiplication, the asterisk, the division, the slash, and the modulus. And if you haven't seen the modulus symbol before, it is that percentage sign, and it is used to get the remainder of a division process. So let's say, for example, I am dividing 6 divided by 3. It's 2, but there is no remainder for this operation. So if I type 6 modulus 3, it will give me 0 because this division operation has no remainder. However, if I try to type 7 divided by 3, of course, this will not result in a whole number. It will result in 2.3333 and so on till 5. So if I type 7 modulus 3, it will give me 1, which is the remainder of the division operation. It's 6. So 7 divided by 3 will be having a remainder of 1. Then we have the increment and decrement variables, the plus and minus operators. And if you have worked in any programming language before, you may sure have learned about these operators. They are used to increment or decrement the variable or the value that they are applied to by 1. But these operands sometimes behave in a slightly different way than people might expect. Let's illustrate this by an example. Let's declare A as a variable. I'm declaring A, I'm not initializing it yet. Okay, and let's declare B. Also, I'm not initializing it, just declaring a variable called A and another called B. Now let's say that B is equal to 1. Okay, now I want to assign A value of B plus plus. Okay, you might think that A will be having the value of 2 because I'm incrementing B by 1, so B will be equal to 2, and accordingly A should be equal to 2. Well, that's not correct. Actually, B has been incremented. That's true, it has been equal to 2 after incrementing it, but A is still having the value of 1. Why is that? Because depending on the position of the plus or the minus operand, the value that gets returned from the variable differs. In this case, if you are adding the plus or the minus operand after the variable, the value that gets output from the variable is its original value before the increment or the decrement operation. So here in this operation, I am assigning the value of B to variable A before B has been incremented, i.e. 1. So what if I want to assign the value of B to A after it has been incremented? Okay, let's reinitialize the variables. Var A and var B, I have just cleared the value inside them, and again, B equals 1. I want to have the value of A variable to be the value of B after it has been incremented. In this case, I will have to add the plus operand before B, like this. Now I have A equal to 2, and B has been also incremented, and it is equal to 2. So this is a very important aspect of the plus plus and minus minus operators, because lots of times in your code, you want to type a shorthand for a variable assignment. So you might want to type a equals b plus 1. Okay, and you say, no, I would just want to make my code more concise, so I want to write it like this, b plus plus. And you go ahead and continue with your code, not knowing that a has not been assigned the new value of b, which is the value that it is supposed to have after it's being incremented. It is being assigned the old value of b before the increment operation has happened. So make sure you understand this very well before you use these operators in your code. Now, we have studied variables, and we said that variables are used to store data. But what is data? In other words, how JavaScript views the data. JavaScript has two types of data, just two large types of data, either primitive data types or non-primitive data types. We are going to study in this section the primitive data types, as we are still in the introductory section of JavaScript. This is the basics, or this is the standard JavaScript, as some people like to call it. So here we are studying the primitive data types in this section. Later on, we are going to study the non-primitive data types, which are the objects. The primitive data types are 5 types: numbers, strings, Boolean, undefined, and null. In JavaScript, everything that looks like a number is a number. Don't get confused by this statement, because some people that are coming from other programming languages, like for example C or C++ or Java, these languages have a very clear separation among numbers. So for example, in C# language, for example, you have an integer, you have a decimal, you have a long integer, you have multiple numbers of data types that are all differentiating between different kinds of numbers. But in JavaScript, this is not the case. JavaScript treats everything that looks like a number as simply a number. So an integer in JavaScript is treated the same way as a floating point variable, in the sense that they are both regarded as numbers. Okay, so this is very important if you are coming from another language, to understand that JavaScript does not differentiate between different types of numbers. Everything that looks like a number in JavaScript is a number. The second type that we are going to study is the string. Strings are just text. Any group of characters is considered to be a string in JavaScript. So this is a number. This is a number. This is also a number. Okay, there is no difference between those three values in JavaScript. They are all treated as numbers. This is a string. This is also a string. Anything that is enclosed in single or double quotes in JavaScript is considered a string. Then we have the Boolean data type. Boolean is just true or false, without quotes, true and false. Remember, but in order to use Boolean values, remember not to enclose them in quotes. So it's just true like this, or false like this, without quotes, either single or double around them. And these are called Boolean values. They're either true or false. We also have a data type that is called undefined. Yes, undefined is considered a data type. This data type is the default value of any uninitialized variable. It is what JavaScript assigns to a variable that you have just declared without adding a value to it. So, for example, when I use the keyword var in order to create any new variable, like for example var connection, for example, as you can see here, the answer is undefined. The console is returning the value of connection, which is undefined. If you want to make sure, just type connection again in order to print out its value, and it's undefined. The moment I assign any value to this connection variable, like a string value of SQL, it will just be SQL, no longer undefined. So undefined here is considered a data type, a primitive data type that gets assigned to any new variable that has just been created and that has not been initialized yet. Then finally we have null, and null means nothing. it's just nothing, just a variable. If the variable is holding a null value, this means that this variable is holding nothing. So a very important question might pop up in your head. What's the difference between undefined and null? Because basically, by this definition, both of them refer to the very same thing. Well, actually, no, they do not refer to the very same thing. Undefined means that the variable is not initialized, but null means that the variable is initialized and is declared, but it does not have a value. So, for example, remember in the last lecture when we said that undefined may refer to a variable that has nothing, or a variable that has not been defined yet. So, for example, if I say con, which is a variable that I have not declared yet, and if I type enter, as you can see here, uncaught reference error con is not defined. I can use a command that we are going to see in a moment. It is called type of. The type of command is used to return the type of any variable that you pass to it. So, for example, let's pass in the connection variable that we have just created. It is a string. If I have my num equals 345, which is a number, if I type of my num, okay, it's a number. But what if I type of anything that has not been initialized yet? As you can see, it is undefined. Not null, it is undefined. What if I declare this variable fedad, okay? If I type of fedad again, it is still undefined. So as you can see here, undefined can refer to both a variable that has not been declared and a variable that has not been initialized. Both of them will return undefined. Both of them will be treated in JavaScript as undefined. So that is the basic difference between undefined and null, because if I initialized this variable to null like this, it will no longer be undefined. It is an object here. And this is one of the confusing parts of JavaScript, in that null in itself is considered an object. It is exceptionally put in the primitive data types, but it is an object. And we are going to have a second look at the null object when we study objects later in this course. But for now, just understand that null is an object. It just means nothing. This variable is holding nothing. However, it is declared and it is initialized. So that's the difference between undefined and null. If a variable contains null, this variable is declared and initialized. But if it is undefined, it is either not declared or not initialized, or both. Okay? Now, in the next lecture, we are going to start studying in detail the primitive data types that we have, starting with the number. So see you then.